Hi, intrepid viewers. Coming to you from Australia, Dr. Lena, aka the Queen of Snark. Thank you for giving me the nickname. I love it. And it got me thinking, I might do a video once a week or something. I won't monetize it, called the Queen of Snark. And then I could actually swear as well. And you would see me in my natural habitat. I am Australian. We're famous for our swearing. Not much else. Swearing, we're up there. World beaters. Okay. So, of all the things that have happened in the last few days, and of course there's a mountain always, I want to start with Colorado. So, there's, I think, 14 states who have court cases going on because voters have said, we do not want the Yeti on our ballot, and they've taken it to court. The first cab off the rank, Colorado. So the lower court said, no, you can't do this, that's impossible. And now the Colorado Supreme Court has said he should be kept off the ballot. Oh my God. Ripple effect. Now, that will be appealed, of course, and we all know where it's going. Upstairs to the esteemed Supreme Court. Right. Now, this is an interesting time for this Supreme Court, because they've got away with doing really not much except wind back the clock on women's rights. I mean, what do they use? The Ayatollah's playbook, how to repress women. Okay, so they reversed Roe versus Wade. Have they done much else? Can't remember. So they're going to be forced to adjudicate on this question. And that's massive, particularly with Jack Smith asking them to rule on presidential immunity. They're going to have to come up with an opinion there. Oh, please. Prayers to Jack Smith. Thoughts and prayers. Real ones. Okay. So they'll have to decide that and this. So in other words, the future of democracy is in the hands of these people. And of course, there's pressure for Clarence Thomas to recuse himself from anything about the insurrection because his very strange wife was out there publicly. However, there's a bit of an issue, isn't there, viewers, when you think about it? Can you really be held responsible for a spouse's political position? So we've got to be careful not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but perhaps he should recuse instead for being corrupt, which has also been demonstrated. So let's not even bother about Ginny. He's been corrupt in his own right. He's a man's man too. Go, Thomas. But these are the people who are going to decide. So what are they going to say? Excuse me. Okay. Colorado's case going to the Supreme Court. God, it's going to be a hectic 2024. We'll all have postgraduate degrees in law by the end of this experience. Supreme Court. Oh, what fell out? Oh, the Fool. Don't know what I think of that yet. Best look at the other cards. Supreme Court on Colorado. Well, okay, so I think there's room for optimism, let's put it that way. There's two major arcana. So let's break this down. It starts with the Fool. So with the Fool, it is like all the major arcana, it has a very sort of low-level meaning and then all the way to its highest level. But it's followed by the star, so I'm going to be generous and interpret it at its highest level. It's a sort of keep the faith card. This is a leap of faith. Does that mean the public have to keep faith in this institution? Do they perhaps have to keep faith with their sworn oaths? That'd be a novelty. But my next card is the star, which for me, often the big cards have different meanings for different readers. Some we share, some were really different. But for me, this has always been the best of what America represents. You know, bring us your huddled masses. Remember that? We'll get on to the Yeti talking about poison blood in a moment. But this is the high ideals of America, where it's bigger than the composite of its parts, right? So seeing those two together, it's good. Then there was the victory card. So from where we're sitting, talking about a victory here for Colorado, but I don't think it'll be that straightforward, because all of a sudden we've got people at cross purposes, if you like, on this. Well, you know, you don't have to be a psychic to work out with a 6-3 conservative Supreme Court. There'd be some sort of conflict, and they'll have to work on it. So in other words, what I think they'll decide quite quickly amongst themselves on these issues for the higher good. They'll sort of agree to that and think, oh, phew. But that's when the work starts, and they're going to have to do a lot more work to fall into line and come out with the judgment. So I think it's sort of maybe 70% okay, but they have to do this work. And every week that these things get unresolved, more things just pile up on top. You know, it's just how it all goes. Oh my God. Now, the Yeti, who has nowhere to go but the gutter, is pulling out all the famous, hideous things in history, including that immigration poisons our blood. I'm counting myself as an honorary American for a minute, just for the quote. Okay, so how bizarre. This means 4 of his 5 children have immigrant mothers. He is the child of an immigrant, poisoning the blood. You know, it's disgusting, but he's not getting away with it. So McConnell came out, not that anyone cares what McConnell thinks or says. McConnell came out and spoke against it. But also J.D. Vance, who has read a book. He's written a book too. But I was surprised that J.D. Vance spoke out. And a civil rights group is suing Texas over their immigration law now, because this all goes together. You know, it started, they're all, you know, drug traffickers and rapists. This is so largely focused on Mexico, not exclusively, because he hates lots of groups, but the vote winner is Mexico. And I haven't heard of this before. You heard it here first. Mexico is suing Texas over the law. I don't know how that'll happen, but let's have a look. So it's like a bridge too far, even for the Yeti, that there's not going to be some pushback and comeback. So let's have a look. This is therefore about Texas that I'm reading. Their immigration law is so repressive. It's a totally authoritarian, anti-democratic, anti-everything law. Let's have a look. Texas and these court cases. Yeah. Oh. Oh, God. Mm. All right. Look, who's caught in the middle? Desperate people trying to cross the border and not being able to get out of detention, because no one ever resolves this issue. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on, no one seems to either speed up the immigration process and make it more humane, or effectively close it down, because you can't build a wall. So for all those MAGA viewers that I'm sure I've got, yeah, right, they can't build the wall. I'll just remind you, Bush tried. Remember, came across all those ranchers who said, over my dead body, and all of that, right? And the terrain, everything else, there will be no wall. But these are the people who are trapped in this, and these cards are about them. It's sort of a timely reminder that this isn't just a political football. These are real people. So they don't know what's happening. They're constantly being made officers, probably by people, traffickers, getting them across the Rio Grande and stuff. This is the tension and stress they're under every waking moment, all right? While others who aren't invested in this and don't care are going to make their decision, right? So with this, it's like, I digress. One of the things the Dems should be talking about in terms of all this is the majority of people who employ illegals are Republican voters trying to save money down on the farm or in the city or anywhere else. Okay, I'm not saying there's no Dem who employs an illegal worker, but the vast majority, speaking as a sociologist, are actually GOP voters. On this ring, thank you, Ernesto, gracias, was made by a dreamer. And remember, when Obama was in, the dreamer thing almost happened. And then there was the financial crisis and la, 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 la. And now it's like a million miles away, even though 80% of Americans support it. You know. So the thing with the Dems too, let's just talk about that for a minute while I'm organizing my cards. Okay, so I think it's like 9 million people are about to be tipped off Medicaid. No, sorry, it's 9 states that are mainly responsible for tipping millions of people off Medicaid, many of them children. Okay, so here's a golden opportunity for the Dems. Okay, so I'm going to name those states. You can take notes. Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Montana, New Hampshire, Ohio, South Dakota, and Texas. Quelle surprise. Okay, so that's an obvious ad campaign for the Dems, ready-made. You name, and you have the ads just in that state. For Arkansas, you just target it to Arkansas. Florida, Florida. You name their Congress people, you name their senator, and you name their governor. And say, these are the people who are tipping you off Medicaid. Why don't you ask them why? That should be the campaign, right? Do I have to think of everything? Really? It's a no-brainer. Will they do it? No. God. Oh, and speaking of Congress, which we weren't, but now we are, it's official, the worst Congress ever. The Washington Post put out a graph of every Congress for the X number of years. The average number of legislation is 109 pieces of legislation. So you've got all these figures. And then this one, 2023, they've passed 20 pieces of legislation. Grotesque in every way. They are so inept. Oh my God. Now, before we get on to Epstein, let's double back to Giuliani. Okay, so now there's a second court case, but I've just got some figures here. He owes $549,000, $500,000. give or take a packet of Doritos, for not paying his tax in 2021. He's being sued for 1.4 million by his lawyers because he hasn't paid them. He's been ordered by Beryl Howell to pay 130,000 for some other fee. This is on top of the 148 million. Right. So many of you have been asking, you know, what's going to happen to Giuliani, and I read on him every now and again. And one viewer said, a reader said a few years ago, Giuliani's going to end up living in his son's basement. Well, that reader was me. I said that. And you know what? I stand by it. Okay, so we're now going to look at, just hold on a moment, I've got a dog issue here. Just a second. Back. The grand dogs are visiting. It's always chaos. Okay, before I get to the juicy Epstein one, Mark Meadows. So what's happened for him this week is the 11th Circuit found that he couldn't make a case to be sent to the federal court. He desperately wants to get his case out of Georgia. And they said in their filing, your official duties do not include altering an election result in favour of a particular candidate. Well, yes, pet. They should really have to write out lines, shouldn't they, 100 times? I must not sabotage an election. Really terrible. So we're just going to have a quick look. Mark Meadows, what's happening for him? Oops, what fell out, Hierophant? Ha 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 ha. You gotta love it. Okay. Hierophant's there. He's behaving like a child, a total child in this. Oh, God. Okay. So he's going to appeal, right? I suspect with these 2 pages, they're going to be reinforcing the message that you can't actually do this. You know, just because your office is in the White House does not mean that you're entitled to just put in the person who is either intimidating you totally or bribing you or cajoling you into supporting him. You know, this is childish stuff. I think this is going to cost him plenty. Knight of Pentacles. He's racking up these legal bills, and in a few months it'll be like, you know, Mark Meadows is going to have to sell a few assets to pay his legal bills. The outcome, though, is the 9 of Cups. I think he's either already got a deal because he did at one point order his staff to hand over everything. So I think he'll get away in the end with not much damage. Financial damage, yes. Reputational damage, yes. But I'm not seeing him go to jail. But they're coming after him and he's not going to have any more joy with that case. So a judge is releasing, unsealing a huge tranche of documents in the Epstein case. And apparently there's going to be 170 people named. So I'm moving to the Toth cards. They even smell different. These are the cards I keep for particularly awful people. Epstein so deserves the Toth cards. So what's our actual question? Obviously, we will know. So I guess we'll recognize names in all this. But will there be some real shockers? Will it have repercussions beyond, a week in the press? Most of the wives of would probably know, Well, let's just look at the energy around releasing those names. Let's have a look at that. The Epstein Playmates. The pleasure. Oh God, yeah, totally. Oh, now they're going to try and suppress this. The phones would be running hot, let me tell you. People are going, what are we going to do about this? Is it too late to assassinate the judge? What can we do? Like, what's happening here? Entertainment purposes only, YouTube. So these cards are interesting. Pleasure, happiness. That's what Epstein was peddling in the form of underage girls. And no doubt boys, we've never heard about the boys, but you can't tell me if a racket's that big, they don't cater to all tastes. Okay, so that's what he represented. That's what these guys experienced in their association with Jeffrey Epstein. Right? Pleasure and happiness. Then, what's coming now? The Two of Swords, they've got to decide how they're going to handle this. It's 170 people, so it's not going to be a single reaction. But high-powered, high-placed people all know each other. So I think there will be a lot of interaction around this. As I said, a lot of phone calls. Their power, and these are all powerful guys, right? This is the card in the Thoth deck of futility. Their power actually can't help them anymore. And I think this judge has deliberately held back on all this and given this very small window of notice and then boom, release them. I hope the judge has round-the-clock protection, and I hope the actual files are in triplicate and beyond. So this card in Thoth is about dominion, but everything coming in to it's like their dominion can't stop this. I think it'll be very interesting to see the names on the list. Don't be surprised when Clinton and Bill Gates and a lot of them come up, because look, it's the Y chromosome. It's not just GOPers. GOPers are much better at local smut. This is international, right? So you're going to see some big names from both sides of the aisle. Well, there we have it. So, my beloveds, before I forget, I'm going to be doing some collaborations over Christmas, and I'll let you know. I think the first one is, I should know, but I don't know. It is Christmas Eve, I think, on Johnny's channel. Then I think Christmas Day is on Jen Lynn's channel. And then there's a New Year's Eve 5 or 6 hour marathon with lots of readers for New Year across all the time zones. Well, except Hawaii. Sorry, Hawaii. It's too much of a stretch. So you might have to set your alarm. If you're a devoted viewer from Hawaii, for all of us readers, we'll let you know the time frame. But in the meantime, I'll be around YouTube Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. All right, so I might put up a little micro video before then, just to let you know the details. So let me know what you're thinking about, what you're doing in the comments. Love you guys. Ciao. Here we go.